Dubai has become one of the most attractive places in the world to live. It's interesting because they created a program for what they call Vision 2040, which is designed to get, they say, their goal is for Dubai to be the best city in the world to live in. And honestly, already, by many standards, it is fantastic. It's really come into its own since 2020. And I think a lot of people moved here and they've got a big, vibrant, growing ecosystem, which is really wonderful. This being said, the question is always, how do you relocate and allow yourself to live, get residency in the country? And there's a bunch of different ways. We've talked about a bunch of them here, but today I'm going to talk about the four most common ways, the main ways, that you would come to UAE and get residency. And in particular, the fourth one I want to talk about is going to be particularly important because I think a variety of the others, the costs are going up, and so there are some other ways that you could go about getting in for lower cost, and so it's worth mentioning that in order to kind of decrease your maintenance, decrease your hassles. It's not for everybody, but that being said, it might be for you, and so we're going to talk about them today. Before we do, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the all notification bell. Thank you for being with us. If this is your first time, I am Michael from Offshore Citizen, and we are international relocation tax optimization specialists. So we help you with paying the lowest legal amount of tax possible, either whether you're staying in your home country and you want to relocate your business, etc., take advantage of international tax opportunities, international corporations, etc., or whether you're wanting to relocate abroad. And so we help you to figure out what is the best solution to you, for you, and implement it. And so if you're interested in any of those things, then by all means, please reach out to us. We like to kind of work with you on a personalized basis where we can figure out what is your specific situation and give you the best solution for you. So if that's interesting, you can book a call with me, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description below, or you can send a message through offshorecitizen.net. Okay, so 4 different ways to get residency in UAE, starting with the most common. Okay, so the most common way that we help people to get residency in UAE is by forming a company. It really is quite simple in terms of time. If I compare, for example, having to get residency for my wife in Canada at some point in time, I mean, you're talking about like a year-long process. If you talk about getting residency in a lot of other countries, you're talking about 3 to 9 month processes in places. By the time you go through going to embassies and doing appointments and getting approvals and on, it's quite dragged out. Whereas in UAE, you're talking about like maybe 3 weeks. So much, much quicker. Being able to form a company, getting a residency permit, it really is fairly simple. You just have that company, you maintain it, and on the basis of that, you can get it. Now, what's the downside of this? So if you don't actually need the company, then it's sort of an added cost. And historically, that wasn't that big a deal. It's costing you $5,000 or something to maintain it per year. But the issue is that they're increasingly adding rules due to this new incoming corporate tax. And so that's a little bit less attractive than it was in the past. Now, I still think that it's a great option for lots of people. I have an entity in UAE. I have companies around the world, but UAE would be one of them. And so, nothing wrong with that as an option for sure. However, given that it's more hassle, more time, and more cost, there may be other options that might be more suitable to given people. And so this brings us to the next option. The next option is, I would say, less popular. It was a newer one that they brought in during COVID, and this is the remote worker visa. The thing about the remote worker visa is it's only a 1-year visa. So if I was to compare it to the first one, it's a 2-year visa. This is a 1-year visa. That means that you have to renew each year. It's a little bit of a hassle. You have to show $5,000 of income per month. It can't be investment income. That's kind of a pain. So it's not really that suited for a certain class of people. It also seems to have issues with the local office, seems to be not too responsive in managing it. And so although it's possible, and we've had people go through it and all that kind of thing, has some drawbacks in terms of this, although it's probably the cheapest option in just terms of raw costs, at least when you're setting up. The third option is really targeted at people who are more investors. And this is the ability to buy real estate. Yeah, there's a few other investment options that you can do as well, but principally real estate is the main one. And this ranges, the golden visa is basically about 550,000 US dollars. It's 2 million dirhams. And gives you a 10-year visa, which is renewable. I mean, it's a great visa if you're in a situation where you, A, want to invest in real estate in UAE, or if you're in a situation where you actually know where you want to live. So generally speaking, the advice that I give people is if you haven't lived in UAE before, then probably it's not best to start with that. It's probably best to start with something else. Then as you explore the city, as you get to know areas that you like, etc., maybe you thought at first that you liked the marina, and then it turns out you much prefer Al Barari, or you thought you liked the Palm, and then it turns out Dubai Hills is great, or whatever, right? Some sort of a thing like that. If you're in this situation, then definitely much better, I think, to explore the city first before making that commitment. And you can quite easily change over from one visa to another's visa. So if you started with a business visa, you say, hey, look, it's a small investment. I'll do that for the first 2 years, and then I'll roll into one of these more long-term, and that will ease my burdens of complications in my life. That's perfectly decent, and I think that's a pretty good way to go for a lot of people. However, you do have to make a reasonable investment, and maybe you don't want to, maybe you're not ready to, maybe you think that the market is going to go down, whatever reason that would happen to be. This brings us to the fourth option. And the fourth option is essentially to get yourself hired by someplace. Now, lots of people are going to do this where they get hired into somebody's company because they're actually coming to have a job, and then they can get sponsored, etc. Obviously, this means you have to find a job, you have to actually work there, you have to all this sort of thing. What happens quite a bit now is you have the ability to have somebody else put you into their company. And so essentially what happens is when somebody sets up a company, they have an ability to get a certain number of visas with that, and they can expand this, they can register at the immigration file, etc. And so they could potentially add you. And because of this, they have a bunch of people across the company, they've already paid for the company, etc. It can be quite a bit cheaper for you, A, to get under there, which that's one benefit that I think is attractive. B, you don't have to maintain the company, so that's more attractive. It's just less hassle in your life. 3, and maybe most significant for a certain set of people, is you can show a sort of income through employment in that company. And what this allows you to do, obviously, you're in a situation where you're probably providing them with the money, and they're probably paying you if you're actually getting a salary at all. You might not be, but because of the fact that you can do this, the banks will look more favorably on you if you want to get a loan to borrow money to buy a property or something like that. So there are a bunch of advantages to this fourth method. It's not one that we've kind of like encouraged people to do or anything typically. However, that being said, I do think it's highly underrated for certain people. So if you're in a situation where you can be added to someone else's company, if you're interested in that, you can reach out to us and discuss it with us. I think that's a pretty reasonable way to go. It will save you a bit of money. It's not like an enormous amount of savings, but the combination of saving money, hassle, and also being in a situation where you can get some better treatment from banks, I think makes it a pretty excellent way to go. So those are the 4 methods. If you're interested in any of them, please reach out to us. Best is to send a message through offshorecitizen.net, and we can respond to you and answer your questions and see what we can do for you. And if you are interested at all in relocating abroad or anywhere else, check out some of our other videos, and I will look forward to seeing you very soon.